Have you ever struggled to motivate employees, even when it's to their direct benefit, to take more initiative? Does it baffle or frustrate you how you kind of have to babysit them? If so, this video could help. It's basically for business leaders who want their employees to be more self-directed and motivated once their target destinations are clearly defined. So watch to the end of this video for bonus material on tapping into group genius to help accomplish what this video is about, and my recommended video on maximizing group results. So if you think motivating employees is a struggle or a challenge, it's child's play compared to motivating child's play with 20 toddlers of 2 years age each that you've never met before. I basically entered a room, high energy, did my clapping and rhythmic chanting to try to get the kids excited that I had never met before, and crickets, nothing. They were mostly a little bit, they were kind of like, what are we supposed to do here? Pretty confused, so I had to adapt. So when there are that many children and they are not your children and they don't understand English, they can't be coerced or commanded to do anything. So your employees aren't much different, and by this I don't mean that they behave like children, just that the motivations that work best for young children also work extremely well for humans of all ages. And that is that one of the best ways you can do this is to try to find what is intrinsic or self-motivation for these people, regardless of age, to get superior results, because they do it because they actually enjoy doing it rather than do this or you'll get fired. There's a lot of negative dynamics that are going to start to happen if you start using that stick version of motivating your employees. But unlike toddler class, you or your HR department can and should have done all you possibly could at the beginning of hiring these people when you first brought them into your company to do what in Jim Collins' words are, get only the right people on the bus. That is, get the right people on the bus, and if necessary, get the wrong people off the bus. But prevention is better than cure. So watch my videos on attracting and finding exceptional employees to learn more about that. So Daniel Pink talked about how mastery, autonomy, and purpose are the 3 best motivators for employees, not money. And that was based on scientific research, not just the way things have been done. In fact, that was his criticism, is that many companies basically disregard the things that are deeply motivating for employees and make it about carrot and stick. So today we'll focus essentially on the autonomy element. But first, before we do that, there's some interesting things or some critical things we've already mentioned. And that is, first of all, if their destination isn't clear, if your employee's end goal isn't clear and well-defined, that's on you. You need to make sure. You can't complain if they don't know where they're going. There's no way they can get there, regardless of motivation. Next, beyond that, the training they sort of came in the door with when they first arrived in your company, it's also on you to assure that they have the specific training that's required to do the tasks that you expect them to do. Assuming those things are all covered, you should be able to, for the most part, walk away and leave them to it until the results are ready, which of course you can make time bound. There's better ways, but that's one way to do it. But all humans have evolved to be lazy or save energy by default. That's what allowed our ancestors to survive long enough to find more food and make more babies, to make more descendants, which eventually became us. But at the same time, that which motivates toddlers can also greatly increase the intrinsic motivation of employees too. As I said, we all share that. All humans share the traits of intrinsic motivation usually being better than extrinsic motivation whenever we can utilize it. but only if they enter the magic circle by choice. Now, the magic circle is a phrase I just recently learned from game designers, or a book that mentioned game designers. And it's basically the mental space into which people voluntarily suspend their disbelief to participate in an activity or a game. The important thing is their voluntary entry into the magic circle. So there's been a lot of hype around gamification and to drive employee motivation, but research also shows from this same book that it'll either be totally ineffective or perhaps even counterproductive and demotivating if the participants do not choose to play. You can't say, here's a game, here's gamification. Do it, like it, have fun is not going to work. It will actually work against you. They will resent it, and they will actually work less and in a less motivated way. So unless everyone in your company has exactly the same interests, say they all love basketball, so you do a basketball gamification of elements of their work, especially the boring ones, that would be great. If everybody likes basketball, I couldn't care less about basketball, and I'm probably not the only one. So essentially, by having one sort of gamification theme, it's guaranteed that some people will love it if you have a big enough company, some will hate it, and the rest just couldn't care less. And those are the ones most likely not to want to step into that circle because they're like, this is stupid, this is childish. But what if you designed a gamification framework with some universal and essentially shared elements? Like, for example, these could be shared across different themes: challenging goals, teamwork, points or scoring systems, competition, a leaderboard, prizes or bonuses. Now, those don't have to be monetary, and in fact, I would say it's better not to make them monetary. Performance status, that is that's more of a how are you doing compared to yourself, and how are you doing compared to others? Virtual currency or tokens, and again, this is game universe fiat currency. It has no inherent value except the value that is generated by people's willingness to step deeper into that magic circle and to buy into that. So badges and a progress bar. Progress bar is a great one. We always use it in programs, right? There's a reason for that. Now take that and combine that with customization and personalization of the game theme itself. So the previous elements I mentioned could be shared across all employees, across all participants, but the specifics of the game, whether that be gamification with a basketball theme, gamification with some other entirely different theme, which I'm going to talk about in a sec. If you question whether this would work for adults, ask somebody who is in a fantasy football league or a fantasy hockey league. And if they're in it, they're like, they get all excited. I had somebody approach me when I went to Hawaii on vacation years ago. It was like, are you into fantasy football? He was like basically begging me to be excited with him about this game. And he was a grown man and not a young one either. So if you use that intrinsic motivation, that is allow people to elect or nominate, it's called topic nomination in linguistics when it's talking about the themes you talk about in your class, the themes you talk about for producing language. In this case, we could just call this theme nomination. Because they've chosen that, it has the research and toddler-backed evidence of increased motivation because they went, yes, I've decided this is fun. I want to participate. So that will increase motivation and performance. But it's really important that you allow each person to step into their own magic circle voluntarily that most closely aligns with them. Okay, the one that's enthusiastic to them. And I'll talk about how you can generate those in a moment. So what would motivate some people would be playing golf at St. Andrews, whereas others, it might be playing chess or doing a treasure hunt, or for the final one, let's go back to the fantasy football. That would excite people. Now, if you could take the themes that they take their shirts off and paint their bodies and make fools of themselves while being drunk at a stadium, they get that excited about it. Now, if you could take that same enthusiasm and bring it into the workplace, obviously they can have their shirt on, but that same enthusiasm, and connect it to their work, especially the boring parts, it'll make work funner and more intrinsically rewarding, producing more intrinsic motivation. So those who have shared game themes, so throughout your company, maybe let's say you have 5 different game themes, 5 different game themes with overarching common elements that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Those people would form natural teams, self-selected teams who have a shared interest in the same kind of things. Now, that would motivate them and help them, and you could design these elements into the gamification to give them things they could cooperate with to achieve common goals. Now, of course, this isn't specifically in their real work, but in the gamified version of their work, where maybe they can build a ladder to climb a wall or whatever it is, I don't know, depending on the game, or build the championship team, but then you need to get coaches and you need to do so many pieces of work or so many specific things in such a way to get the coaches and the better sports shoes if it's for basketball or football or whatever, and that you work together to achieve those common goals. And it's just a way to drive them to do work with enthusiasm so that this gamification motivates that. So anyway, they can cooperate to achieve those common goals while competing against other teams, that is, other self-selected groups who are actually playing different games or gamification with different themes. They're playing completely different games, but because of the common elements, they can actually compare themselves to one another. So they form separate teams to which you can compete against, which is another element of gamification. So the idea is the common elements across different games allows that comparison between different game themes within your company. So you get this wider sort of meta game of the whole company are on different teams. As I said, the adventure team, the basketball team, the first-person shooter team, whatever it is, and they compete against each other, playing the game that they love, but also competing against other teams so that it gives them that additional motivation and that deeper game element at a second level. So this is really important, though, that I'm going to refer back to the magic circle again, is that they want to step into the magic circle for that particular thing. So it's an important part that you can even actually make the gamification lighter the more invested they are. And the reason I say this is fantasy football. Isn't it mostly documents? I've never done it. Look at Magic the Gathering. Look at a lot of games. Look at when you play cards. I'm just talking about regular card games. The fun has very little to do with the cards, which are very basic, but can be used to play a lot of different games, including party games and solitaire and bridge and so on. And if you love the game, that's really what gets you involved, not the structure of the cards themselves. So it's the same here. So the more enthusiastic they are, it basically, if you have to impose one game, which is normally how gamification works, unfortunately, what that means is you're guaranteeing somebody's going to think the theme of the game is stupid. The idea of this personalization and having multiple themes with a universal sort of comparison elements is that there's at least a much greater chance that everybody has a game they're at least somewhat happy with and ideally delighted with. Remember, otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to have one game that some people love, some people hate, and the rest of the people don't care and probably just think it's dumb. And they are the people less likely to be motivated, more to the point, they were actually likely to be demotivated by being pushed into doing this gamification that they feel is just stupid and a waste of time. So thank you for watching this far. We're now on to the bonus material about how you apply some of these ideas. So you might be asking, well, how do you know which game themes to create? Well, this is kind of a silly question in a way, because you ask your employees about their hobbies, interests, sports, games they play or games they follow. They're likely to be happy to talk about things they love. Now, that's ideally done during their intake interview, on the last stage before you hire them. You just gather that data. But, any time will work for current employees, which obviously, if they're there already and you're just learning this for the first time from me, I'm going to claim I invented this concept of adding this other layer of self theme-nominated games. Maybe it's already in practice, but I thought of this specifically for this video on my current theme of creativity. I created something. It didn't come from nowhere. It came from reading a book and just getting the idea from the research and taking that back to its application. So this isn't going to, and then the next question you might ask, well, isn't this going to be a ton of unproductive work not related to my business? It's not going to be zero work, but you could probably have one person or a small team who helps set this up. You may want a specialist in this, but even so, it could be a small number of people with this next simple and sort of obvious step, or step that could become obvious, because this actually will enhance the investment of people in this system, in the gamification. That is, if you get employees to help you co-create the game based on the theme they love. So if you only started with the themes and then said, okay, let's build out the point system, the reward system, the basic structure of the game, any ideas you have, and here's where we go to the boss bonus or the bonus, because they're already investing in it themselves. There's lots of research about this, that people who get involved in solutions, get involved in jobs, get involved in anything, it's known as the IKEA effect, value it more than if they hadn't done so. So the big boss bonus is you can gamify the majority of the creation of the gamification itself. So if you only started with a group of multiple themes, let's say 5 themes across the company, and then for those employees, you said, okay, you will get bonus points in your game. You will get bonus rewards. It's not different than the Cub Scouts badges, really, or gold stars, but also not much different than getting an Oscar. That's fancier, but it's the same thing. The item is only valuable, just like money, because people agree it's valuable, because they care about the meaning behind it. That's just a token. That's all it is. So it's the same thing here. So you could actually reward them so they could come into the game with more digital money or more tokens or at a higher level. Levels are used in a lot of role-playing games. When you achieve a certain amount of skill or you do a certain amount of things, you get experience points, and that levels you up. The same thing you could do here. So people could enter the game at different levels depending on their contribution. So they actually have social status within that magic circle, that game universe, because they had a lot to do with it. That's going to make a lot of people excited. And then you go forward and you could be ever evolving this. So it's meta both in the 2 themes, the common theme and the individualized theme, but also in the creation where you take merely the themes and then encourage people to gamify the rest themselves. Choose how that gamification hooks into the tasks they do at work and how they can use that to motivate themselves. They'll buy into it more, and you may need one person or even a small team when you're first setting this up to then make sure that it works universally across things. So there might be some tweaking, but once the gamification is set up, it becomes a community and could keep people motivated and excited in doing this whole thing. So that's it for the overall theme of this video. The recommended video is how to maximize group results. I'll put a link there to that. That's not specifically associated with this, but it does involve things around team building and how groups have collective personalities based on their individual personality traits. That's it for Crush It Club 251, creating intrinsic motivation with personalized gamification themes. If you enjoyed this video or learned something from it, or you want more information, whatever it is, please share this video by sharing the love, please share this video with other people you think would enjoy it. What I meant to say is, please share the love by sharing this video. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.